Hey, everybody! I'm very, very, very excited for our guest this week. Her and I have known each other for years. She's one of the more real people that I know in this industry. She her stand up is my favorite because it's basically her view on the world and her narrative. You know when people kind of like there's lanes for comedy, like where people do impressions or like that straight laced Seinfeld style of telling jokes. I've always been uh, drawn to her comedy because it is a narrative and is very real. And she's just so funny from her ice cream videos to her role on the Mindy Project. I feel like she has a book in her. I don't know if she's started one, but she should just because her voice is so unique and funny. And she's a dear friend of mine, and I don't see her enough. So please give it up for the one, the only Joan Rivers. Just kidding. Fortune Feimster.
What's up, buddy?
The dogs start barking.
Who let the dogs out?
How are
Uh,
you?
I haven't written a book, but I do want to.
I feel like you've got one in you, Fortune.
I've dabbled in like writing outlines for them, but it never seems to be the right time. Whenever we talk to editors, they're like, "Not the right time." We're like, "Okay."
And to me, it's like, not the right time doesn't pertain to us anymore because
Yeah,
past year, it's like, no, now is the time.
right.
And
Yeah, it's a lot of work though, from what I've heard from my friends that have done them.
I know, like all of our friends, everyone around us.
I think you just have to really, really want to write a book because I don't know that the payoffs is quite the same as it used to be.
I think you're right. It's definitely not.
Do people read still?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Do the
As long as you read it, that's all I need.
do the crosswords count? I read those.
That's a yeah. Those involve words.
I'm a pretty avid reader. Reaver. I'm a really avid.
I'm very good at reading books
I
and pamphlets.
Yeah. Hold on. What is going on? Dogs, bunny. Sometimes
My dogs do that.
it's the little ones.
They
Sorry, guys.
do it. They do it every time the mailman comes.
And let me tell you, the mailman comes here often because my sister and I have been doing what I've referred to as grief shopping.
Mm,
We just
yeah.
got from Marshalls, and I'll let you guess collectively what my sister and I spent an hour in Marshalls today.
What you spent buying?
Cumulative, my sister and I, an hour Marshalls. What do you think kind of damage her and I did together?
How much money?
Yeah, what did we spend?
$550.
Wow, you're actually like almost on the nose.
What was it?
Were you there?
Yes, I'm always with you.
It was like $575. I don't know what I got. I don't know what I got. Do you have any?
I only guess that because you said collectively, the two of you. So I was kind of deducing around 250 to 275 each.
Do you have a store? Like that was my mom and I's store. That was
it?
when we come into town, we drink some wine and go on a Sunday, which is basically like walking into a forest with hungry wolves.
Looking for the deals.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't shy away from Marshalls myself. There's usually in LA. There's always a Marshalls and a TJ Maxx and a Nordstrom Rack. Like they're usually like all beside each other in the little strip mall kind of things. So Jax and I, my wife, we will start with like Marshalls, then TJ Maxx. Well, no, we start with Nordstrom Rack and then work our way down.
I've never done a Nordstrom Rack situation, but
I actually like it for clothes personally because they get a lot of brands and they
it's
get
cheap as fuck, right?
What's that?
Cheap as fuck.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's like nice stuff. You can get like Theory and Vince, which are
I don't know
male.
who most people are, but it
They're
sounds
like a male, like high end male. I'm not male, but I sometimes like a nice button down.
I buy
Um,
men's. This is my secret for Marshalls. I don't know if you have a Nordstrom's like insider's secret, but my secret for Marshalls is you buy the male sweatpants for chicks. They fit the best.
Oh, nice. There
Yeah,
you go. Well, the Nordstrom's rack has all these high end brands, but they've been marked down a ton for whatever reason, and I'm never on trend, so I don't mind wearing like last season's whatever.
I don't even know what I'm wearing right now. I feel like I'm wearing something that's like from Buckle. Do you know that store Buckle?
No, I literally have a hoodie on. I'm wearing a hoodie right now. I'm a garbage person.
I'm dressed like the girl in the second act of a Hallmark holiday movie where she came in from Manhattan to the farm that her father left her, but now she's like getting used to it and like, I might live here. Stay here. Lance is back, her ex-boyfriend from high school.
That's you right now.
Yeah, that's how I feel like I look right now in my leopard shawl.
Oh, I miss the quieter life.
Oh yeah, wow, there's grass here.
I'm just here to visit my family, but I fell in love and didn't expect it.
I
Now,
didn't Lance is gonna be back. I never could get over that high school moment where I blew him under the bleachers and he left me for Swanson.
yeah,
Swanson.
they got married and now they're divorced.
Hmm.
Second chance at love.
Yep. I mean, we all need that.
Yeah.
I started recording this podcast for Spotify, and it has to do with love. And
Mhm.
one of the girls I'm interviewing tomorrow is she called herself. Let me check my show notes. She
Check those
called
notes.
herself, and excuse my naiveness in this whole world, but she called herself a non-binary female. What does that mean?
Um,
Assuming
I,
you know, but
I'm so bad with I'm like I feel like I'm 80 years old when people ask me because I'm always like
okay. So
I
this is
think
like
it means
generational.
I think it's like not gender neutral. Yeah,
Okay, got it. It's
yeah.
very interesting. Like, what as a gay woman, what is one of the most annoying things you've come across, either in the industry or like when you do morning radio or any sort of like platform where people have to ask you questions? What's one of the most common things that you're asked that is so annoying?
I as a gay woman or
This question.
that was this one. I could know because I was gonna say as a comic, you'll know that they all ask you to like tell them a joke, and
Right.
that's like the worst thing to ask a
That's
comic
the worst.
because I'm like. I don't just like tell like most comics nowadays aren't like one-liner comics.
No.
Whereas back in the like if you said to Argus Hamilton right now, tell me a joke, he'd have like 10 awesome jokes for you.
10 tight jokes. If you guys don't know who Argus is, was a Comedy Store staple. He's just been around forever.
Yeah. But he's
Literally
the guy
legend.
that has a lot of setup punchlines. I don't tell jokes like that. So if anyone says to me, tell me a joke, you're SOL. I have nothing to tell you.
To do that either. Like it feels, just let me be me. Like let me do my thing. Let me just sort of
Yeah.
have a conversation with you.
But as a gay comic, I'm trying to think if people ask me anything in particular.
They're like a stereotype because you do a lot of acting and you do a lot of auditioning.
Yeah.
Are there stereotypes that you feel that you just get put into because of that? Or like, for me, I always get asked, what's the hardest thing about being a female in the industry? And there's so many
Mhm.
aspects to it, specifically about being a female. So I just wonder, like, take it a step further and
I feel
being
like they don't even ask because I'm on morning news and they're just like, let's not talk about that.
like, oh, the grandma can't handle this.
They just want to talk about ice cream dancing. They don't want to dig
Yeah,
deep into any of that other stuff that middle
okay,
America might not like.
I could think of a question that would be annoying. Or
Okay.
like, did you always know? I could
All right. I'm like, I didn't. Everyone else knew. That was the problem.
Were
I
you
wish.
out as a child? Like, did you
Mm,
have like an out moment?
no, I mean, I came out at 25, which
Whoa.
feels crazy now because I mean, can you imagine meeting me at 24? I mean, it wasn't much different than me now. I won't say
Just
how
saying,
old I am.
no, you look like you could be 24. You've got amazing skin.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But can you imagine meeting me at 24 and me being like, "No, I'm straight."
Yeah,
I
but
like
I'm open minded. Like, okay, cool.
I just imagine people looked at me like, "Sure you are." Okay. Because I met a couple of those people where I was like, "Okay,
For now,
just give it time."
give it some time.
Because you just kind of instinctually know about certain people, not everybody.
Right.
And I feel like I I wear it very well. Um, so no, growing up, I didn't know. I grew up in a small town of about 6,000 people.
What town?
It's called Belmont. It's right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and it just wasn't.
Very homosexual friendly.
Well, now my little town is very supportive,
Now,
and
yeah.
but back then there were no gay people that were out. Actually, my kindergarten teacher was gay, and but married to a woman. That's very common in the South.
And not out.
He was not out at the time. We found out later in life he was gay. They eventually got divorced, and then he actually was able to live his life as an out man for a bit. He's since passed, but he like that was a very common thing back then. If you knew someone that you thought might be gay, they oftentimes were married to someone of the opposite sex. So I didn't have any examples of out gay people.
That's
And
gotta be so difficult growing up, feeling how you feel and being how you are and not having anything to equate it to or to relate to. Like, do you think that that is one of the reasons why you were you scared?
Well, it's something I touched on. It was something I was trying to sort of get across in my special as to why I came out late. It just was like
You're special.
not even talked about. It was not even talked about, So it wasn't like I was out, or it wasn't like I knew I was gay and I was hiding it. I legitimately just did not know. I knew that something was off. I knew that something was different about me, but I couldn't like, and so that came with a lot of angst, because I knew, like, why am I being so intense about this friend? Like, I know this isn't normal, but I don't know why this isn't normal. Does that
Right.
make sense?
That makes total sense.
And so I just kind of just did my thing. I didn't really date much, and maybe that's why I became a big overachiever, because that's how I got um validation. That's how I got any sort of attention or recognition, was by achieving, because I wasn't getting it via dating or attraction. Guys and I would meet. I always loved guys. Guys and I get along really well, but we immediately have a high five scenario, even back then.
That sounds like me and all my exes, I have to be honest.
You started
I
every
get friend zoned
relationship
all
start
the
with a high five.
It's so hard. I'm so awkward. Like, I always get
Mhm.
friend zone. It's like, I want to suck your dick. What are you doing? You're wasting my time.
I don't want to high five your hand.
No, I think this is like I'm a cool chick, and so they're like, "Oh, she's just a cool chick." It's like, yeah, a cool chick who wants to suck your dick. Like,
Mm.
I do. I don't. I also want to be,
I'd like to high five your wiener.
yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
So, did you date boys growing up?
No, not really. I went on a couple dates. I didn't have I didn't have a boyfriend. I went to the prom and stuff, things like that. So I just kind of didn't date. And that's another thing that a lot of gay people deal with, is a silent rejection. And that's why I think people have, there are issues around being gay that you have to work through once you come out, and to get comfortable with who you are, and to work on your self-esteem, because when you're young, you're getting rejected and you don't even know it sometimes.
Oh,
You don't even, you're being told no constantly by the other sex. Not everyone. I have some gay friends who really got down with some people of the opposite sex, But most of us were like you guys are usually not interested in a lot of the lesbians or whatever, and so you just you feel a constant sense of no. And that has to weigh on your self-esteem, as you deal with that every year of your life as a young person. Has a thing where you just feel like you're not worthy of love, and so you really have to work through that once you get older and do figure out who you are. It has to be something that you work on alongside coming out.
And for you, knowing how I know you, and I get this a lot, but I know how we are very good at masking emotions and also finding time and space to deal with our own emotions. Are you
Mhm.
someone who's suffered with depression and has battled demons and emotions that are
Mhm.
undealt with from having to
Yeah.
endure all of that rejection?
I luckily am not someone who I don't have like clinical depression. I'm very grateful. It's not something that has plagued me. It's plagued people in my family. A couple of people in my family have had to deal with it and have had to, be on medication. And that helps a lot. I luckily wake up glass half full pretty much every day. I'm lucky that that is usually my equilibrium, like that my balance. I
Wow.
start there.
Yep.
um Not to say I don't have hard times or I don't get sad, I certainly do, but like the beginning of the pandemic, I was actually kind of in a funk. I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was in a bit of a funk for like that first like 2 months. And how that transpired was I wasn't being silly. I wasn't making videos. I wasn't putting out content. I wasn't laughing. I just was kind of here. I was just kind of quiet and just watching TV and stuff. That's how my
I think
sadness.
everyone was
Yeah.
the same way. I'm like,
Yeah.
check, check, check.
Yeah. And I just kind of sit in it.
Yep.
And I don't, but if I'm in a good place, I'm usually emoting joy more. And just I have a silliness, a lightness about me when I'm feeling good. But I mean, I've had it in spurts. When I first started stand up touring, 2000, my first headliner year was 2010, and I was depressed
That's the
then.
most. It's the most like it's like the great career dichotomy. You're on the road, and all of us have felt that way. Like when I'm on the
Mhm.
road, I reach out to everybody more than any time in my life because it's so depressing. It's
Mhm.
talk about that for people who think we're living this glamorous life, and it is amazing. Our jobs are amazing, but
Yeah.
there
Well,
is
especially in the beginning when you're broke, you're like
oh,
finally touring, but
that hustle, you're like, give me a stage.
you're lucky to make, maybe $1,000 for the weekend, but that means you also have to fly yourself there and you had to rent a car and you had to get a hotel and
You're going home
s-
with $200 if you're lucky.
yes, you're not making jack squat. No one knew who I was. I only had done Last Comic Standing, so like a handful of people at every gig knew who I was. So they're making you're working for it that much more for every laugh. There's no one really respects you. And you're staying in, the cheapest hotels, motels, you're by yourself,
So
you're eating by
bad.
yourself. I think that was one of my most depressed times. And I called and if you have anything going on in your personal life at home, then you can't really deal with it. And I called my mom, like, be like, what have I done with my life?
No, I do the same thing. I woke
I
up
was
and
just
like,
like,
I want to go home.
I graduated summa cum laude. Why am I doing this?
Did you really?
Yeah,
That sounds like it's a
it's the
dead
highest one,
song
baby.
for come on me. That's what it sounds like. Summa cum laude.
Come on, my lottie.
Yeah, come on, my lady.
That means all of college, I made all A's and I think two B's.
What did you study?
Well, communication. It wasn't science.
Talking. Let me You're like, yes, I am feeling this way.
But I still had to take all the mandatory classes. But yeah, that one was a bummer time. And then I it took me a long time to find love also, and
Was
that
your
made
mom
me that bummed
accepting?
me out a lot. Huh?
What was your relationship like with your mom, like growing up? Was she accepting of who you were, who you are, and when you came out, did that change your relationship with her?
My look at the light. The light's like shining through my window on
I
my
mean,
face.
I'm so jealous of you. I'm in a basement and there's children running everywhere.
Um, my relationship with my mom was a journey. I think mothers and daughters probably have the most complicated relationship.
There's your first two sentences of your book, bitch.
I know, right?
Holy shit.
See, now my dogs are going crazy.
I thought those were my dogs. I was about to yell.
Yeah, I think mothers and daughters butt heads a lot when you're young, and your mom knows how to push your button in a way that no one else in the world can push.
They know.
And it brings out the hate when you're a teen, you're just like, "Oh, I hate
Yeah,
you."
all those emotions.
Yes, and so we had a real up and down rocky thing for a while where we just couldn't, like, I don't even know what the word is. We couldn't even connect or talk, or like, she was my mom, I loved her. I was her kid, she loved me, but we just were working on 2 different planes.
You have talked a lot about her, and you do talk a lot about her in your stand up and in life.
Mhm.
And you grew up in a very unique way. Do you want to elaborate on that a little?
Well, so they my parents I had an interesting childhood because my mom was born really rich. Her family lost all of their money through bad business decisions, and her dad died unexpectedly, all these things. So she was always this, like, rich woman in this now in this poor woman's world. My dad never had money. He grew up in a trailer, nothing. They had nothing. He, like, hitchhiked to school. You're talking about wildly different backgrounds coming together. So I
Sounds like
had a
Creek.
yeah, so I had a wild childhood of my mom, like, really trying to keep up with the Joneses, as they call, and
Yes.
my dad was like, NASCAR and chicken wings and hanging out at the bar with his buddies, and so I always had these 2 weird worlds, and they split when I was 12. And then my mom, you now I my, now my mom and I are very close, and yeah, I do talk about her a lot, so I can look back at our journey. I think for my mom, she got divorced, and it's just, I can see it now that she had this huge rejection. Her husband didn't want her anymore. You know, this 23 years of marriage didn't work out, so her focus then was like, "Oh, I gotta find love. I don't know what true real love is." So for the next however many years, she was really focused on finding love again, where I was like, "Hello, hi, hi, we need you." And she can look back at it. She looks back at it now, being like, "Ugh, I can't believe I made certain choices." My brothers are older, so I was kind of the one stuck to, like they gave me I had a roof over my head. Our bills were paid, not always on time. My grandmother lived down the street, so I had people looking out for me, and my mom was there for me in a lot of ways too, but that was her main focus. So that was our other issue, was just trying to, like, get her priorities situated.
And going deeper into your mom, which I know a little bit of history on, it makes sense knowing what her illness became, knowing what her desire was, because I think that's a
Mhm.
very common coupling, people who have this type of illness, which I'll let you talk about, missing some love. And
Mhm.
all of us in life are searching for love. And,
Yeah.
I go to a therapist,
Mhm.
Brett Costin. He's amazing in LA. And He said something one day that really resonated with me when I was talking about stuff I was stressed about, and I was like, I really hope this something comes through. It was a gig or a job or something, and he goes, "That right there is a toxic behavior.
Hmm.
It it's somewhat toxic to put hope outside of yourself
Mhm.
because all you need is already within you. You just need the tools to dig out some of the pain that's there to uncover the truth. And the truth is, we all have the love we need within us. And
Yeah.
it's very consistent with what your mom developed throughout the
Mhm.
years and what you grew up in.
Yeah, she was looking to be validated from men. She wanted a boyfriend to validate her, and she wasn't, seeing what she had. Um,
Which was beautiful.
hey, mom.
I've seen photos of you as a child. You are
I'm
so
sure I was a
beautiful.
turd too, though. Um,
You all were. Are you kidding me? Developing emotions suck. I mean, my niece and nephew are fucking demons, but I get it. They're creating
but
hormones.
again, but again, I might not have gone on the journey that I did. I don't know that I would have tried so hard at school. I don't know if I would have tried so hard to leave my hometown, to make
Yes,
make more of myself had I been loved completely
I
in
know. If we were
some way.
loved completely, whew, girl, it was
But
bad news.
I got really lucky because, at one point I thought, well, I mean, there was my grandmother was a big part of my life. And once she died, I thought, well, I did have this thought, well, I guess I'm an orphan now, even though I had parents.
My sister and I have said that every day since my mom passed away. That's so funny.
Yeah. And I really at that time wasn't sure that we would ever get our relationship on track. And then long story short, I moved away to Spain for a year right after college, and it was a year of just me being like alone for almost an entire year. I didn't know hardly anyone, and I was just lonely. And I, for the first time in my life, missed my family. I missed my parents. And all that like anger and resentment that I had been building up, I my mom drove with me to across when I got back from Spain. I had a job in LA. My mom moved with me, drove with me across the country. That was the most time we'd spent together in a long time. And we always had this like role reversal where I was kind of the mom and she was kind of the kid. And I remember we stopped in Vegas, and we were walking down the hall, and I kind of like snapped at her in a way you do at a kid who's like, like misbehaved or something. And the security guard lady was like, "That's your mom." And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And like, so it made me kind of just be like, you know what? I have to allow her to I can't keep holding on to the past. I can't keep holding on to resentment. It's doing nothing for me. It doesn't make me feel good. I have to allow her to grow. If I keep holding her accountable to these things from the past, it will never have a relationship. And that
No.
that was the beginning of us really healing.
They
And
always
that and
say it's
we've
forgiveness
been really
too.
close ever since.
Yeah.
Let me shut this blind real quick.
It feels like Icarus is in your
Hold
front
on.
yard. Icarus is in your front yard. Her light coming through. She literally is facing the sun setting in LA, and it's so damn bright. I miss it though. Me being here on the East Coast, I'm jealous of her sunshine.
Sorry.
No, no, it's fine. I was telling everybody how I'm jealous of your sunshine there in Los Angeles.
So I'm grateful. So like my mom doesn't, we don't delve into the past a lot anymore because it's kind of like, yeah, it happened. Now we can laugh about it. I tell jokes a lot. But I'm grateful that we were able to move past all that stuff.
There's something about um, forgiveness being so powerful. It's like one of the most powerful
Mhm.
things we can do for ourselves. Because
Yeah.
to elaborate on what you were talking about, you're not forgiving her, you're forgiving yourself. It's you're letting things go that emotions and things that were done, because I've done the same thing with my mom. And
Mhm.
you do that for you so that you can have a relationship with that individual. You know,
Mhm.
acceptance is so damn hard to accept.
Mhm.
It's like that's the irony of it. It's the hardest thing to accept.
Yeah.
So I think being able to look past our parents' shortcomings, because it's hard not to idolize them. You know, growing up, they're the first faces you see and
Mhm.
first touch it. Hopefully, if you're fortunate enough, you get all those things. And then
Mhm.
when we get podcasts and we look back, we're like, oh, they were just fucking people.
Yeah, I mean, once you get older, you can see like, oh man, they were just doing the best they could. And you don't really get that when you're younger. You're just like, oh, these guys are real turds.
Yeah, and there's such a point of contention and argument. It's like, no, they grew up in a certain environment, certain era where things are different. You know, it's going to be the same thing for us. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if and when either of us have children, I'm sure there's going to be gripes with how we
Mhm.
have raised them, or
Well,
you
and your parents have traumas. I mean, I can look at both my parents and be like, "Oh, you this thing that happened to you, I can see how it's totally affected all these other things." And if you had been able to just deal with that and talk that out, maybe this, that, and this wouldn't have happened. But it was a different time. Therapy wasn't, it was kind of frowned upon for a long time,
yeah, it
and
wasn't
you just
like,
kind
and
of
men weren't
sucked it
allowed to talk.
up.
Women were allowed to talk at all, and men weren't allowed to say anything emotional. I wonder,
Yeah.
like, because we have such a hindsight vantage point to look
Mhm.
back and equate their emotional shortcomings to their environment and what was going on in society, that they were so shut off, and how that affected everything. You know, their
Yeah.
children not being able to communicate and what that sort of snowballs into. I wonder if there's going to be some sort of repercussion or uh, occurrence from being too open. You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah, no, we don't hold anything back.
what's going to be the
And with
down?
all the social media, we're all, like, sharing every thought that comes to our mind. We're like, "Maybe we don't have to do that."
The president's crying. You
But
know, just can't do it. Or she.
but the thing I realized with a lot of it, and again, I'm not saying I have it all figured out. My mom and I certainly have our moments where I act like, where I'm all like, "You did this," I haven't, but for the most part, I let it all go. There's a people find a real comfortability in being the victim,
True.
and I didn't want that for myself. I don't think that being a victim uh, serves you in any way. Even if you are genuinely a victim, but to be at the mercy of whatever your traumas were, don't let it have that too. You know what I mean?
I, that is the motto I have lived my life under, and it, like, you don't think living your life as a victim serves you in any way, even if you were actually a victim, is such a
Mhm.
powerful statement, because it takes a certain level of bravery to live like that, but the opposite is so much worse.
Mhm.
You know, to be able to, like, live your life as someone who survived something as opposed to have it be your crutch is such a better fucking existence. And in comedy, it comes up a lot. I don't
Mhm.
know about you, because, like I said before, one of the things I love about your comedy is there's a levity to it. I know when you're on stage, I'm learning something about you and who you
Mhm.
really are, and that's a comedy I gravitate towards. Um, and
Well,
I
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh my god, we're finishing each other's sentences. No, I was just saying, I think as a comedian, you know, I talk a lot about my past, and one of my first sexual experiences, everybody's heard this on the podcast. I was raped the first time I ever had sex, and so I
Oh,
talk
man.
about rape in my comedy. And I did this one set, and these two girls came up to me after the show, and they were so mad. They were so mad about it. And how could I talk about that? And it's not right for, it's bad for women to talk
Oh,
about that.
that's
And
crazy. It's your journey.
yeah, it's
You get to
it's
do
one of my
whatever you want. I mean
and I asked them after I let them talk. And I heard
Mhm.
him out, and I was like, okay, can I ask you one question to both of you? I have one question for you both. Were you raped? Both of them were. And I
Um,
said a very harsh statement that was said to me.
yeah.
Your trauma and your trauma's healing is your responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's a harsh thing to hear, but like you said, you have to find a way to overcome it. And you've overcome a
Mhm.
lot of fucking hardships in your life. And, you know, for someone like you, it's interesting because I asked you earlier about like depression and how you feel about it, how it's not something that's necessarily a huge personality flaw or factor in who you are. I feel the same way. And I think because we've been through so much shit, we've been humbled by life.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, I've any friend that especially when I moved to LA and I had friends that had never really been through hardships, you go, "Oof, buckle up,"
Oh
because
God, it's like, what do you
it
have to
it
offer?
well, it's gonna happen. I don't know a person in the world that hasn't escaped some sort of hardship, trauma. It's coming at some point.
It's fucking coming.
And you just have to be able to deal with it. And then sure enough, when those hardships, in whatever way they came, hit those people, it was like a tsunami. They were like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" And it made me for the first time really grateful that I had overcome things growing up to sort of have that tool, because even, things are gonna be hard, they're gonna suck, but it's how you deal with it. And I just try to come from it of like, how does it motivate you instead of how does it bring you down?
So, what would
Eh,
you say in your life the three most painful occurrences that, whether they motivated you or not, what are those like? It doesn't have to be three, but like
yeah.
the most defining things in your life that changed you.
Uh, well, what motivated me originally was not having money. I mean, again, I can't, like, when I say not having money, I can't know what it's like to live on the street or to be in another country of extreme poverty. So I'm not comparing myself to those situations. But for us personally, my mom was a single mom and a teacher, and it was basically the three of, my mom and us three kids on a teacher's salary. And that, which is not
Jeez,
much.
it's nothing.
And so, it was very common for the us to be sitting in the house and the lights go out and you go, I guess the bill hasn't been paid,
Like
and
paying that bill, you guys think Bill's some person? You're like, this guy sucks.
bill really needs to pay
Yeah,
whatever.
where is Bill? Every time he when he
And
does, it shuts off.
my mom, to her credit, she would get summer jobs like at Quincy's, which it's basically like a Sizzler,
Oh,
and
I know Quincy's girl.
yeah, and
Road comic.
it's very she had a master's degree. It's a very humbling experience for this woman, again, coming from the background that she came up from in. Suddenly she's waiting on her friends who like they wouldn't even acknowledge her. They were like embarrassed for her or something, which is so ridiculous that they wouldn't even acknowledge her. I'm like, how shitty must she have felt? So I try to give her credit, because she had to deal with some real stuff too. I mean, she's like making $2 an hour selling big fat yeast rolls. And
You come?
people she was lucky if people tipped $1 back then. I mean, the people were real assholes. So we just didn't have we learned to get by or whatever, but it did set in motion this thing with me of like, I'll never, I just remember us as a family just being like trying to figure out like, how are we gonna keep Price in college? How are we gonna, pay for my grandmother's funeral? Like these things that you just dealt with as a family. So it motivated me to be like, I'm never gonna be in that situation where I don't know how I'm gonna pay for something. I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm gonna do whatever I can so that the lights don't get shut off. So that was a big motivating factor for me.
That's a powerful motivator, and for a lot of people, I think I was listening to Charlize Theron talk about turning pain into purpose on NPR. I'm a nerd.
Mhm.
Sorry.
It's good
Sorry.
to
She talked about that, because she grew
Mhm.
up in a very,
You had some trauma.
yeah, a lot of trauma, and they had slaves in their house, and
Oh,
they
really? I didn't know that.
they had
Mhm.
runaway slaves and all sorts of dealing with like the apartheid and growing up in
Yeah.
the environment. But she spoke a lot about turning pain into purpose. And
Mhm.
do you think, because you and I are two white females, it's easy for us to say this,
What do you mean? Say what?
like that we could just don't be a victim and turn your pain into purpose? Like, is
I
it
mean,
something anyone can do?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is I've never walked in anyone else's shoes. So I can only speak from my journey. I don't know what it would be like to be in a situation where your chips are down and then you also have this systemic s- situation on top of that. I find that that would be a very difficult thing to overcome, and people do, but it would not be easy. I had some advantage, I did have advantages even though I didn't have money. I still had opportunity. I worked hard, but opportunities did come. I don't Not everyone's lucky to get opportunities.
What advantages do you think you had?
Um, I mean,
Thought a lot about this, like,
mhm,
and I know there are things that are existent in culture and society where there are systemic issues, but I'm looking at your story and my story, and I feel you and I individually had more disadvantages than advantages. But that's why I'm genuinely curious as to, maybe I'm blind to my advantages and I'm not seeing them.
I mean, the simplest of advantages is that you can drive in your car down the road and not worry that if a cop pulls you over, you're gonna be killed. Look, I
You
mean,
haven't smelled my car, Fortune. It's like dead dog and weed.
I mean, even though I was poor, I did have a roof over my head. I had a mom with a master's degree who, could have a teaching job that could, provide to a certain extent. And, I mean, I can't say like, it's so hard for me to say what advantage I had versus what other people didn't have because I've only lived in this
Right.
skin,
Yep.
and so I think it would be an easier thing for me to see if I came from a place of complete disadvantage.
Yep.
It would be easier for me to be like, well, here's what I didn't have, and so I'm still learning about you know the privileges that come with the color of your skin. I don't really know, and I'm not an expert at it.
It is
Um,
hard, it's one of those things where people have to have compassion and understand that
mm,
when you live your life a certain way and you don't know,
yeah,
it takes some time to look back and be like, oh, okay, I can see where
and I've had to have friends, teach me, be like, here's what you're not seeing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just unless I've walked a mile in someone's shoes, it's so hard for me to know, you know.
it is.
But I just try to like live my life in a way that is uh I work hard. I just try I don't um I want to keep the lights on, I'm just
Yeah,
like
but you're a
uh
unique individual. Like
yeah.
I've always, I I look at my people that I've kept in touch with as much as I have kept in touch with people during these
Mhm,
past few years, and I think the common denominator is a genuine, positive, but grounded approach to life. And
mhm,
the other thing that I know about you is you also aren't a people pleaser and you know your worth. And you treat people very fairly and kindly. And I know it sounds like, again, when you're in it, you don't realize it. It sounds like those should just be fucking things you
right.
expect from people. But our
Well,
industry, like most industries, filled with a bunch of fucking broken assholes.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially women.
that comes from another influential person, which I touched on earlier, was my grandmother. She was a very influential thing and person in my life, and she was kind to everybody, and she was beloved by everybody. She spent her days, because by the time I was little, she was well into retirement, so she would like cut flowers from her garden and take it to the people, the bank tellers, and the
Oh,
secretaries at school. She would bake things for like the librarians in town, and she was just always giving. She had a light around her. So I spent a lot of time with her. I was kind of like her shadow growing up. And I just watched this person. I watched her be so kind to everyone, and I saw the look on the people's faces when they received that kindness. And so that had a big influence on me, because I was like, I want to make people feel like she feels, like she makes people feel. And so I think that how I treat people is very much based on that. And I know she died when I was 18, which is another big influential thing. And I know if I not to say I can't be an asshole. I certainly I'm
we
very
all
kind.
can.
I'm very kind until
Your
you've
dogs start
there's
barking.
reason
You
not
know
to
when
be kind.
you're blind, but I bet you have one less dog. There's like an uncovered earth mound in your backyard.
No. But I would be so embarrassed if she saw me behave poorly. You know what I mean? She's dead, but no, she could be with me.
Please watch. Have you seen signs of her? I mean,
Nothing blatant. I just feel very like I've never like she's not I've not had experiences with paranormal stuff. My grandmother and my mom have those experiences, so I've never been visited by a ghost or anything.
have you
Um
done psychedelics?
no, no, I'm such a
Why?
nerd. I'm a nerd. I don't do any of
You
that
haven't
stuff.
done crack or
I'm like,
psychedelics.
I drink coffee.
I'll send you a bag of fruits. Your grandma will show up
She'll
on
show up for
Thursday.
sure. Like, hello, I've been waiting on you. But I feel her around me. But her presence is always like I'm named Fortune. It's my middle name, but I'm named that because of her. She wanted that to be my name. It was her mother's last name. Like she just was such a presence for me that everything I do was to be like, I want to make this woman proud.
And so when you were 18, I mean, I think about emotions I had at 18. How do you What's the first thing you did when you found out, and how did you find out, and what was the first thing you did when she passed away?
So she got cancer. She was 86, I want to say. So she was older. It was my senior of high school. She had a spot on the side of her face, skin cancer. And it what's the word?
Metastasized.
Mess
Metastasized.
you know what I mean.
Matt,
It
Matt,
became, it became cancerous. And so the
ask Matt for a size. That's what it
yes. So she went to the doctor, and I didn't go. I don't think I could have handled it. My mom was with her, and the doctor like got on her knees and just said, basically told my grandmother she had a year to live, which I think about as a doctor how hard that's got to be, like looking someone in the eye and be like, this is it, pal. And so they came home, and my mom told me, and it was like devastating. I was just like, oh my god. So I just went out to my grandma was sitting in the car, and we just stared at each other. We didn't even speak. We just stared at each other for like I want to say like 15 minutes.
Oh,
And then we just kind of like, okay, we never talked about it at that point. We never said like, this is it. And so a year went by, and I graduated from high school, and then um you kind of just hope that like that doctor was wrong, that it was a shitty doctor, because she was too old to get radiation, chemotherapy. It would have get like her. It just would have.
Annihilated her.
annihilated her. Yeah,
Treatment would have killed her.
she was very skinny and frail anyway because she was older, and so she was just basically riding it out, which is crazy. And so at the end, after I graduated, she had a doctor's appointment. They were like, she actually has 2 weeks to a month. I'm like, God dang it, that doctor was right. And it was, so then it ended up becoming so what started as a little spot on her face, it went inside, it went into her brain, and it went around her spinal cord. We didn't know this at the time. We just knew it had, this is probably pretty
No,
graphic.
go
It
ahead.
had kind of eaten the side of her face. So she had a big bandage here, and you're like, I can't believe that this is the thing that's killing my grandmother.
Yeah, this like little
Yeah.
nondescript thing that on a microscopic level is doing detriment to her
Mhm.
cells.
So I remember it's kind of a long story. I'll try to condense it. So at the beginning of the summer, she basically said to my mom, like, we're gonna see, my first name's Emily. They call me Emily. We're gonna see Emily off to college. And that was, so this was May, and that was
Sister's name.
really.
Yes.
And so mid-August was college, like August 13th. And my mom internally was just like, there's no way, that's 3 months away. That's not, but she didn't want to say that to her. So she goes, yep, we will. Anyway, so the summer went on. My grandmother kept losing weight, kept becoming very frail. There would be times where we were like, this is it. We had a hospice nurse. They would like tell us, she was very spiritual. She'd be like, you guys need to tell her it's okay to die. Because, when you're 18 and you're like, this is my most important person in my life, you're being like, hey, I'm okay. You can die. And I was like sobbing, I had to tell her by twice because bitch would be laid out, and then you tell her it's okay to die, pour my heart out. My heart is like being run over by a, car. And the next day she'd be like, what's up, guys? And you're like, what? It was such a journey. It was the hardest summer of my life, but there was some really sweet moments too. My dad picked her up because she got to like 89 pounds. My dad picked her up and walked around her house to look at, she had like treasures and stuff that she really loved. And
Oh,
we had someone come sing her songs. There's like really beautiful things that happened.
she
And
was at
then
home.
she was at home. We kept her at home. Yeah. And they had a hospital bed for her. Anyway, long story short, it was time for me to go to college. August 12th. She had made it. She was she was kind of unconscious. I wasn't sure if she could hear me, but the more I woke up to go to college, to drive to school, and I went and said bye to her. And I don't know if she could hear me or what. And I basically knew that that was the last time I would see her. And the next morning at 10 a.m., I felt her die. She died. So she
Wait, what do you
held
mean
on.
die?
I felt it. I'm a Cancer. I'm like an empath. I feel energy. And I think her energy was such a part of me that I just felt it go. And I called her house, and my dad answered, and he went, can we call you back? Cause she like literally had just died, and he didn't know what to say to me. So he called me back, but just being like, I'm sorry, I didn't know what to say to you. Like, your grandmother just died. I knew that, that she had. So anyway, we found out from a cancer doctor who was a good friend with my mom that all these prominent cancer doctors had studied her case, and they saw how this cancer had, at the time, like I said, we didn't know, it had surrounded her brain, surrounded her spinal cord. They said this woman would have been in so much pain, and she didn't say ouch one time in 3 months. They said there's no reason she should have lived past 2 weeks. And my mom's friend said, well, she said she was going to see her granddaughter off to college. And they go, sometimes there are things that science can't explain. And that's what she did. She willed herself to live for 3 months in agony just to see me off to college. So you take
And now
that,
you have to carry that for the rest of
buddy, it changed my life.
I know.
I go, I can't be a piece of shit
No,
because this person did something for me that no person will do in my like that is something that not many people would do. And how can you not then make something of your life from that day forward? I mean, it changed me.
I think that's, you know, the you just said that's something that not many people in your life would do for you, and that's one of the things I feel like we take for granted is the sacrifices people make for us. And
Mhm.
you know, she stood by her word for you, and that's a testament to how tight you guys were and how much you meant to her. And you know, she knew how important it was for you, and the fact that you were able to turn that into motivation to be.
That's why I go by Fortune. I started going by Fortune when I was 23 because she wanted me to be named Fortune. My mom chose Emily because that was her favorite name. And I thought, whatever I do from here on out, when anyone calls me Fortune, when I get if I make anything of myself with this name Fortune, it's because of her. And any acknowledgement for Fortune is acknowledgement for her, in my opinion.
Well, you made
So
me cry, so I hope you fucking feel good.
I don't talk about that
I'll
story. I
talk
don't talk
through
about it much because I was able to hold it together today, but
I think I made you cry.
but it is it's a it's a story that makes me happy and makes me sad, you know.
Or I think somewhere in that is, you know, there's truth in that shit. And people listening to this have all gone through some sort of loss. And, you know, I'd love your opinion on, you know, maybe just a few things for people to consider or tools they can use on how to cope with grief or loss. Like for me, you know, I meditate every morning, I work out every day, and I start my day with some sort of gratitude. To me, those things that
Okay.
have helped me through these past few months and the magnitude of the emotion of
Yeah.
the loss. So,
Well,
what
you're
are
in
the
the
things
thick of it.
I still am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna say how old I am, but it's been a long time. Not that, it's one of those things. I mean, when I was in the I mean, I did so many things to deal with the grief at 18, you know?
I'm
Uh,
just saying it's so hard at that age. You're dealing with new emotions still.
and at brand new college, I was like, it was a lot. So I had to try on a lot of different hats to deal with the grief. Luckily, I didn't because of her sacrifice. I didn't. If she hadn't done what she did, I probably would have been a big piece of shit. Who knows? I would have just been a big loser. Not, I don't know I don't know what my life would have looked like. But that changed the course of it. But to deal with it, I don't even know what I did. I mean, time has obviously helped me and I'll be totally fine that there are many days I don't think about it. It used to sit with me all the time. She was at the forefront of my day for a long, long time where there not a day went by I didn't think about it. That dissipates over time. You just start to live your life. It becomes the norm, unfortunately. I've lived more life without her now than I did with her, which seems crazy. Um, but I'll be totally fine, and then it's suddenly, like, there's a documentary on cancer, and I'm, like, in a fetal position on the floor. I'm like, "I'm fine." Ah! I just don't know when it's gonna hit me, you know? But it is on its own timeline, I will say that. You cannot choose when the grief will hit you when you're out of the thick of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't. It's
Probably you have
definitely
that with your dad sometimes.
Yes, it's still, there's no handle on it.
Mhm.
It's like being in the ocean. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like. It's like it's an emotion. It's
Yeah, and I don't let many people see it. I just, like, would sob in the shower every now and then.
I was in fitting rooms before the COVID hit.
Oh, my wife Jax has experienced some of it with me where every now and then it'll just hit me and I'll just be sad. But, you just deal with it. You just feel it. I think in a way it's like a little, your body's kind of honoring that memory and that person and the relationship and the influence they had on you. So I don't see it as a negative thing. I think it's a part of it.
What do you think was one of the most important things grief has taught you?
Well, I never want to have kids because I can't handle losing things.
Oh, my sister loses her kids all the time. She has two, but most days we just have one. We're like, well, we hope the other one shows up by dinner.
Well, I clearly have abandonment issues. It took me a very long time to even get dogs because I was like, well, they're just gonna die. Why would I want to love something like that? So I've at least gotten past that. I have two dogs now that I love dearly, but I'll look at Biggie and just be like, please never leave. It definitely, I mean, it makes you appreciate, the people in your life. I'm still guilty of taking things for granted. I have not, none of us have truly mastered the art of like appreciating the people in our life the way that we should. But I mean, it taught me that you can overcome. I mean, the pain I felt with that is like nothing I've felt with anything else in my life. And I thought, well, I'm here. I made it. If I can overcome that, then I can overcome whatever. I mean, but let's not get crazy life. Let's not challenge. Let's not
Yeah,
give us
never
any
know
more
somebody
challenges.
else. Let's not.
I'm not inviting that into my life. But it does, yeah, you learn that you can get through it.
Well,
And
speaking of
you'll
getting
get through
through
it.
it,
It's hard. It sucks. You've lost two your both parents in a
I'm an
relatively
orphan.
short amount of time.
I'm literally an orphan. Yeah,
It sucks, man.
it sucks the worst, but like you said, it's a motivator for me. I'm not crippled by the victimhood that I could feel, or some
Mhm.
days that I realize is a natural reaction. I'm motivated, and so
But
I,
I'm glad you're allowing yourself to be sad because you should to like sweep it under the rug is not helpful,
no,
you
and
know?
like when you do that, you want drugs and dick, and right now there's a quarantine, and those aren't readily available. I have some drugs, but I've had no dick, so like more drugs than
You
normal.
don't want that COVID dick right now.
No.
So just deal with your grief, it'll be there.
Well, I really appreciate you being open and honest and
Of
forthcoming
course.
about all the stuff you've experienced. And if you could say, this is something that I think is personal to each person, but
Mhm,
is there anything you do, like for me, before I go to bed, maybe because I'm in it, I say
mhm.
I love you to my mom and dad
Oh, that's sweet.
every night.
Yeah.
Is there anything you still do? Is there any little ritual you have left with your grandmother?
Uh, anytime it's not a daily ritual, but anytime something really cool has happened, like a bigger thing, like like something I really wanted, or some sort of acknowledgement in the business that I hadn't had before, I always go, "Thank you." I always go, "Nana, I appreciate that." I just give her a little shout out. I always make sure to verbally include her and acknowledge her when any of these things happen because I know she's watching out for me.
Yeah, she may not be here physically, but she's still here spiritually and in some sort of energy form. So I always talk about the relationship isn't gone; it just
Mhm.
evolves.
Yeah. I get Nana shout outs.
Nana,
Thanks,
shout out to
Nana.
everybody.
I
We're
love you.
orphans. Orphans
Yeah.
bitch.
I'll even say it to Jax if we have something cool happen as I'll be like, Nana's looking out for us. Shout out, Nana.
Well, thank you so much. Where can everybody find you? I know you're working on something right now, which obviously will take some time to come out, but where can everybody listen to you, find you, and see you?
Well, I'm on the old Instagram
What?
at Fortune Feimster, Feimster.
It ain't true.
Yeah, I'm on there. I try to make people laugh with silly videos and on Facebook, and I'm doing that Netflix after party with David Spade. It's on Netflix, so
It's really funny. It's a fun time with
thanks.
you.
We're finding our way, you know.
It's
Us
something.
it's us interviewing the cast of popular Netflix shows. So it's fun to kind of be on the, like, you know, part of the Netflix family talking about these shows that everyone's obsessed with because we're all in quarantine,
Yes.
or a version of quarantine. But yeah, so I'm out there. And one of these days, Jessimae, all of us stand ups will be back on tour, but not yet.
Back on our depressing tour.
And the nice thing is that we can stay at a little bit nicer hotel.
Oh, I mean, girl,
So at least we have air conditioning now.
I fucking love you, Fortune.
Same, buddy. I appreciate you having me on. And
Thank you so much.
I'm sending you big hugs. I know you're going through it, and you will get through it.
Send me big hugs and also big drugs.
Drugs, hugs, and D.
Shit.
Drugs, hugs, and dick.
Sounds like a fucking great weekend.
I don't know any. I can't really send you any dick. It's such a funny word.
Be an Indian giver now. I need it. Send it. Send it.
Wait for your vaccine.
Rude.
Then get it. Rude. At least the first shot.
Yeah, because then I can get the second one, and that's the one that counts.
There you go.